my Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1588 of Toronto Mike, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Learn how to plan, invest, and live smarter. Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making her Toronto Mike debut is Talia Schlanger.
Hi.
Welcome, Talia.
You said my last name so epically that I didn't know if I could jump in. I didn't know if there was going to be an extended
You know what I was
trail.
That's true. There is the awkward moment where I do that, and then the guest is going to say, but then I usually chime in with like a welcome Talia or something like that, just so it's obvious who's to speak.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for making the trek and visiting me today.
I'm excited to be here. Episode 1588. I wanted to wait for that lucky. That's
well,
my
8
lucky
is
number.
a number. 8 is a number that is lucky.
It is,
I believe, and you got a couple of 8s in there.
That's right.
I saved it for you.
Thank you. Good timing. Hi.
So, firstly, Talia, named after Talia Shire.
No, but I did get asked that a lot when I lived in Philadelphia. It was a very easy point
because of
connection.
Rocky.
Rocky, yeah. Everyone was like, "Oh, Talia Shire," and I was like, Schlanger, close. Just make it a little bit put some more consonants in the last name, and there you got it.
All right, because not only Rocky, but Godfather. I feel like how many actors can say they were in The Godfather and Rocky? Like that's like the 70s holy grail. That's unbelievable.
I think just one.
Yeah, that's it. One. I don't know why. Maybe there's a bit actor or whatever playing some small role or whatever. But okay, you're not named after Talia Shire. There goes my first question. Now, yesterday's episode featured a guy named Rob Nash.
Rob Nash.
So Rob has 2 B's in it. He's a musician from Winnipeg, but he's been literally he tours the country to reach kids who are thinking about taking their own life. So it was a really heavy, intense, amazing conversation, but it didn't feel right to stop down and go, okay, Rob, and then to talk about my event on Saturday. So do you mind if we do this off the top? And then we'll get into the life and times.
This is your show. I'll go and listen to Rob's episode and then come back. That sounds beautiful.
You know, it's a really good episode.
Yeah.
It's a really good episode. I'm really excited about this episode, but because I didn't mention it due to the fact, it's weird. You're having this heavy chat, and he's literally tattooing the names of kids on his arm because these kids gave them their suicide note because they didn't need it anymore. It's unbelievable. And I'm like, oh, Mike, you can't stop down now and shout out the funeral home. You can't give them some beer. You can't talk about pasta. You can't do that. So I didn't do any ad breaks during the episode. It didn't feel appropriate.
There's a time and a place for that, for sure, and that's not it. And I need to collect myself now because I have tears in my eyes. So you go ahead and do whatever you have to do. I'll get my beans together. Okay,
and I don't know what your plans are on Saturday, Talia, but we are all gathering. By we, I mean the FOTMs, the Friends of Toronto Mike, which you are now one. We're all going to gather at Palma's Kitchen in Mississauga this coming Saturday, this November 30th, 2024, from noon to 3 p.m. There'll be a live recording. Everybody will eat delicious pasta from Palma Pasta for free. I'll bring fresh craft beer from Great Lakes Brewery. And we're going to have the most amazing 3-hour recording. People will jump on the open mics. A lot of cool FOTMs are confirmed to be in attendance. What are you doing at noon on Saturday, Talia?
I'm actually going to be in Pennsylvania because I'm playing a show in Irwin on that day and then in Philly the next day. But otherwise, if I were not
what an excuse that is.
I know.
That's amazing. Okay, so everyone listening, TMLX 17 is this Saturday. be there or be square. And because we're going to get into this, I think of you, you're a radio star, but now you're a musician. Like, I have so many questions for you, but I'm going to give you a couple more gifts before we rock and or roll on this episode. Okay. That's a wireless speaker.
What?
From Moneris. And what are you going to do with that wireless speaker? In addition to listening to great music, like Grace for the Going, your new album, which we'll talk about in a moment, you can listen to season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, which is an award-winning podcast from Moneris. And Al Grego, who hosts that show, he's actually going to be at TMLX 17 on Saturday, so you can tug on his cuddly beard.
Ooh.
And here's a fun little twist here. Okay, so his season 7 finale just dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And it features Tyler and Jordy Schwartz from Retro Festive, a unique pop culture and Christmas store in Oakville, Ontario. And I'm excited to announce that Tyler, who I know better as Ty the Christmas guy, he's going to be at TMLX 17, and I understand he's bringing gifts for the FOTMs in attendance. So you'll see Ty on Saturday along with Al, but you can listen to their episode now with that wireless speaker.
I'm looking at it. It's lovely. I'm going to take this with me.
It's quality because Ed Keenan from the Toronto Star had that playing the beats at his 50th birthday party because I crashed the party and saw that he was using his Moneris speaker for that.
It's so cute. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. And also measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home.
I love measuring. I love a measuring tape. Comes in handy. Thank you. Wow.
And I'm not even done yet. You have a USB key. And that's from recyclemyelectronics.ca because you can go to recyclemyelectronics.ca and find out a place near you where you can drop off your old electronics, your old cables to be properly recycled so those chemicals do not end up in our landfill. This is really important, Talia. And now you know where to go if you have an old laptop you got to get rid of.
I'm obsessed with recycling, so this speaks to me.
Okay, I like recycling too. Like I take great pride in my sorting and recycling duties in this home.
For sure. And clothes. I like recycling clothes. Almost everything I have is secondhand or has come from a friend or come from a secondhand shop. So recycling clothes also, but as well as electronics, which
Did you see this documentary on Netflix called Buy Now?
No.
Okay, so my wife made me watch it because she's passionate about fast fashion and all the waste that's created, and she's really like she's a kind of a seamstress, like as a side passion, and she's really passionate about upcycling and keeping clothes out of the landfill. So forget the electronics out of the landfill. But this doc, parts of it I didn't like production parts of it, but the meat of this documentary, I really recommend it. It really lets you know about all this waste, like where's it going?
All of my merch, my t-shirt merch is all on upcycled shirts. So whenever I'm in these like random American towns, I go to the Salvation Army and I buy good looking blank cotton shirts in all different sizes. And then a friend here in Toronto silk screens my merch shirts because there's also like an environmental.
I'd love to hear this. Love to hear this.
Anyway,
okay.
Love recycling. Yeah.
No, love it all so much. Okay. So I mentioned radio star, but before we get to that, basement dweller. This is going to let people know what a quality person I have in the TMDS studio right now. So you're a quality person.
Thank you. That's generous. I don't feel that way all the time, but I thank you.
Well, Basement Dweller, who astute listeners know, he's come out to a few TMLX events. He says, I knew her when she was a teenager, and she was a regular volunteer at a downtown meal program that I ran for a couple of years during my brief, respectable era. LOL, some happy faces. So let's process that before I read this nice note about your new music.
That's so nice. That's Osgood Hall. And that was the best, man. I volunteered there for years and I loved it. And the guests were so great. And I mean, the fact that people can't always afford a place to live and to feed themselves and to feed their families, or maybe don't have a place to live at all is hard. I can't understand it. Like I can't understand it in a rich country like this. Right. So it was a joy to get to be part of hopefully helping a little bit. But it also was such an amazing way to get to know your neighbors. Like I knew the people that lived around me on the streets, and it just getting to know people, getting to know their stories. And I used to do it sometimes. It was always on Wednesdays. And sometimes when I was doing long theater contracts, like for the Mervis shows, I would go in between shows. I would do our Wednesday matinee, zip out of the theater at 4:45, run over to Osgood Hall because it's quite close to where like all the theater stuff happens. And then, if you'd get to serve some folks dinner, have some great conversations, and go back and do the show at night. That's a really nice note. Thank you.
Kudos to you. Like that, to have that sense of community as a teenager, that's not typical.
Well,
sometimes it comes to people later, but as a teenager to have that sense of community, to volunteer at a downtown meal program, I think that's exceptional.
Well, thank you. That is a really kind thing to bring up and brings back a lot of wonderful memories of living in the city.
And as luck would have it, I see on the live stream, so we're live at live.torontomike.com, but the vast majority of people will hear this as a podcast, of course, but Basement Dweller's on the live stream. So
wait, who is it? Hi.
So Basement Dweller, I don't know if I'm allowed to dox him because he goes by his code name, but his first name starts with A.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Say hello to Basement Dweller. Okay, great. And he also says, and again, I mentioned Grace for the Going, which is available now, and we're going to get into this. But he says he loves it. He says there's beautiful songs, performances, and production. He loves your debut album.
Thank you very much, Basement Dweller. I appreciate that.
And that's a teaser because we're going to get into that. So Andrew R. did write in as well and said, I sure miss hearing her all the time on CBC Radio 2, but I love it when she fills in on Q. Also, her new music is fantastic. Good for her. And then a heart.
Jeez.
You came to the right place, Talia.
This is a real day maker right here. Thank you. It was Adrian?
Andrew R.
Andrew R. Thank you, Andrew R. Heart right back at you. I appreciate it so much.
So you mentioned Mervish, okay? So before we get you, we're going to talk radio because I love talking radio. And then, of course, we're going to talk music, and I've got some loaded up, and I'm really excited about all this. But you were an actress, right? Like, I heard from people that, I think Rob Proust just missed you. Like he worked on Mamma Mia, but I think he left for New York just before you got there. But like, give us a vibe of what do you mean actor? Like, what were you doing?
I was a kooky musical theater kid and then ended up doing it for a living for a little while, mostly in like the pop rock jukebox musical capacity. So
like We Will Rock You.
Yep. The Queen musical.
American Idiot.
Yes. Green Day.
I've seen that one. And of course, Mamma Mia.
Did you see Green Day when it was here?
I saw it when it was with the North York. What's the theater?
Yeah.
I saw that. Okay, so that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun. That was a fun period of life. It was so different. 8 shows a week for long stretches of time. And it was just the most fun. Like, talk about music. You got to sing Queen songs every single day and dance and Green Day songs every day.
But I've heard from people who were in We Will Rock You and they had to audition in front of, members of Queen.
Yes.
So did you have to do that? Brian May and
Roger Taylor. Yeah. I mean, it was nuts. So you had to do a bunch of auditions before you got to that stage. I think I ended up having 7 or 8 callbacks where they sort of whittle things down over time and they work with you and get you ready with the material and see if you might be a fit. Because, you not only have to be able to sing this stuff, but you have to be able to kind of work with people and execute a vision and the whole thing.
Sure.
And the final callbacks, Brian May and Roger Taylor were going to be there in the room. And I don't, like, when I say it now, I know that it happened. There are other people to whom this also happened, but I can't really process the fact that I had the audacity to walk into a room where they were and then sing the audition song for the role that I was up for was Somebody to Love. So you just walk into the room, they're like, here's Brian, here's Roger, here's 10 other people, and go. But they were so kind, so welcoming and so nice. And Brian May in particular is just like, he's unbelievable. He would not fit in this basement. He's unbelievably tall.
So the guy yesterday, Rob Nash, the guy whose episode you'll listen to later, he's 6'5".
Oh, geez.
So you know how I warned you about this low part above us, and I don't even think to warn people about the actual regular ceiling. He can't stand up straight over there.
Well, he's probably used to looking out a lot more than us. I'm 5'4".
You know who told me that? Leo Roudens came by and he sat there. And Leo Roudens, I think he's 6'9", but former NBA player. And I said to him, like, I told him, watch your head. And he goes, Mike, when you're 6'9", you're always watching your head. So you're absolutely right. Like, the 6'9" guy is less likely to hit his head than the 5'9" guy who never watches his head. And I'm talking to myself right now.
For sure. It's like average height privilege. Right? You don't have to walk around looking in front of your
The world was made for us, right? Unless you're like in the Hobbitville or whatever in New Zealand there. But
oh my goodness, I don't know.
Do you know the name Bob Wagner?
Yeah, of course. Oh
So-
my gosh, Bob's one of the best guitarists ever. He's amazing.
So I think that's where I think I got the story about he had to audition for you mentioned Taylor and May there, and Bob Wagner, who has also attended TMLX events in the past, but he moved to Montreal. He we're in a FOTM chat, and he was shouting you out when I said you were finally making your Toronto Mike debut. So here's a shout out from Bob Wagner.
That's so nice. I love Bob. And you know what? If I was scared as a singer to do a Queen song in front of Roger,
yeah.
like in front of Brian May, imagine for Bob, like playing one of his guitar solos in front of him. No, like he's only Bob and Tristan Avakian, who is the other guitarist also on that show. They were phenomenal. And
Wow.
yeah.
Love all the Bob talk here. Now, before because I'm aching to get you to radio, but I saw something on your credits I need to ask you about because there's a young lady named Andy who will be at, here, I'm shouting it out a lot because it's Saturday. Like, it's like, we only have a few days to go here. And by the way, free event and you get free food and a beer. Like, all you have to do is listen to a Toronto Mike episode being recorded.
Come on.
That's your punishment. But Andy is the biggest Degrassi fan I know, like just diehard Degrassi fan. And you do have a credit for The Next Generation. Who did you play on Degrassi The Next Generation?
The very memorable, in fact, one could say unforgettable, university representative number 2.
Oh, they didn't even give you a name.
No, I had no name. This credit haunts me. Okay, it haunts me. Linda Schuyler created Degrassi.
Right.
And she wrote this amazing book, and I interviewed her for Q about it, and we had a chat, and I was so happy with how the chat went. She's just an incredible woman. She was so great at telling her story. And at the end of it, she was like, "Do you remember being on Degrassi?" And I was like, "Linda, look, I get asked about this, and I was nothing. I was nothing. Paige, who was one of the main characters, got really baked and went to a university fair, and I was trying to sell her on coming to whatever school I was representing, and my head turned into 25 different heads, and they were all sort of swirling around her, and
It's trippy.
And that was my pivotal role in Degrassi.
And I bet you because it's Next Generation. See, I'm an OG Degrassi guy.
Yeah.
So, and I watch Schools Out every couple of weeks. I got to watch it again. Like, because, Tessa and Joey get it on, but on CBC at about 8 p.m., we heard Caitlin say fucking. Yeah, I can say it on this show because we're not on the radio.
Wait,
but you,
really?
yeah, 100%. This is true. I know. Listen, let me educate you here. This happened. Prime time. It's called Schools Out. It was the finale for the OG Degrassi. It was a finale. It was a TV movie. I did literally, there's a 2.5 hour episode of Toronto Mike just about Schools Out. So after you hear Rob Nash.
Yeah, I got some listening to do.
You got some on my
Wheels. Drive to Pennsylvania.
The late great Neil Hope. Okay. So he's no longer with us, but he played Wheels.
Yeah.
And Wheels, of course, drinks and drives in this thing. And that's how, and Lucy goes blind. It's a heavy duty. There's deaths. He gets pulled into jail. Okay. But the F word is said a couple of times, I think, but Caitlin Ryan says, you were fucking Tessa Campanelli. Yeah, this happens. 8 p.m. CBC television. So,
And what happened then? Was
nothing.
the nation up in arms?
I hope not. Like, I feel like this is many years ago, right? Like, maybe we can handle that word. Maybe. I'm not saying you're going to drop it on Q or anything, but...
I don't know. There's a lot that we can't handle. I don't know if we're ready for...
Well, we were ready then, and I guess we regressed here. Oh, and so I want to shout out a guy named Joel Greenberg. So Joel Greenberg has a podcast called Life in Stages, and Joel Greenberg has been in the theater world, not so many musicals, but he's been directing theater stuff in this country, in the city, for many decades, and he just retired. And I just wanted to shout him out. He's got a great podcast. And I learned a lot about the theater world from Joel Greenberg.
Hi, Joel.
So shout out to Joel. Okay, radio. So obviously you can sing. You're in all these big musical theater roles. Like you must have, so you just always knew you could sing, you loved to sing, and you had a good voice. So, hey, you're going to do these roles.
I was a very singy kid, and then learned to channel it hopefully into something slightly more productive. And I took a bunch of singing lessons, and really took a lot of classical based singing lessons, like to learn how to stretch my voice and
like from your diaphragm. I'm pretending like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I saw that in a movie once.
100% from your diaphragm, all from the diaphragm. No, I had a great voice teacher named Gretchen Helbig, who was a huge part of my learning, and she helped me, and then yeah, I just kind of had a big voice, and I loved singing, and I never went to theater school specifically, but I took lots of private classes and lessons, and I would work at my talent agency, answering phones and sending faxes to earn money so that I could take the classes I wanted to take, and I was very earnest about it, and yeah, so then I sang, and then I sang in shows, and people let me do that for a while.
Amazing. So when do you pivot to radio? Like, what made you kind of stop acting and become a radio star?
I think star is a really,
look.
I don't identify.
To me, you're a star. Okay,
you.
We'll get into the details, but to me, you're a star.
Thank you, Mike. I don't personally identify in that way, but I appreciate that. I love writing also, and I love storytelling and talking to people. And doing theater was so fun, but also there was like a part of my creative soul that was not totally fulfilled by that. And it was my mom who was like, you could be like Oprah. Oprah was very big at that time.
Forever, yeah.
Yeah, she's still, it's Oprah. She's one of the true originals. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And so I ended up going to Toronto Metropolitan University for a program that was then called Radio and Television Arts.
Of course.
It's now called like TikTok or something, new media, like something.
TikTok
now that we're not,
101.
yeah, I don't know.
New media, whatever it's
I sound
called.
old, yeah. New media, some I forget what it's called, but I should know.
If you sound old, I'm older because when I was going to university, I went to U of T, but it was formerly, the name it was known by Ryerson. It was a polytechnic institution.
My father was a professor there when it was a Polytechnic Institute, and we have a sweatshirt that says Ryerson Polytechnic Institute.
Well, we used to call it Rye High because we were jerks.
Well, it is an amazing place because it kept that, at least when I was there, I don't know what it's like now, but it kept that spirit of a Polytechnic Institute where your teachers were industry people that were just like, had a lot to offer. And so the program was amazing because for example, Jill Dempsey, who does the news.
Who's an FOTM and has been in this basement within the last 12 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Jill's the best. And she was my teacher for radio broadcast journalism, right? And then I turn on the radio and hear her reading the news on Metro Morning every single day. Right. It's like, these are the people who know what they're talking about. And that's that's not in the spirit of like an academic institution university. It's the spirit of like, all right, you want to learn how to do something? Here's a bunch of people who do it. Yeah. They're going to teach you. Yeah. So anyway, I decided it was, when did I start school? Maybe it was 2007 that I started at TMU. And then after one semester, I got the We Will Rock You, the Queen musical. I got cast in that. So I left school for a while to go do that. Kept like leaving, going back and forth to do school. And then I kind of worked on my radio passions at the same time as I was working as an actor.
Concurrently here. So how do you end up?
That's the word.
That's a big word for me, actually. How do you end up as a weekend host of Radio 2 Morning on CBC Radio 2?
Well, I am trying to frame it in a more cute way, because I used to say I just like weaseled my way in, but really I was a bit scrappy about it. Like I had to do an internship to finish my degree, and I was interning at Day 6, which is the Saturday morning.
Do you know who was here earlier this week?
No.
Brent Bambury.
No. Brent was
here, and Ralph Benmergui was there Monday. And it was this Wednesday? Yeah, 2 days ago.
You're having...
I want the heavyweights. Give me the Brent Bamburys, okay? Give me the Jill Dempseys. I'm a big CBC listener.
Okay, Brent, though, is unbelievable. And he's so nice, right? Like, he's...
Very nice man.
Extremely sweet
By the way,
man.
I was going to do this later, but, he's talking about at some point just becoming a full-time dad, like leaving Day 6. I think you're the heir apparent if you want that gig. I feel like that should be your gig.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Can you write somebody about that?
I can make some calls.
Okay.
But I'm being serious. On Monday, he dropped... This is not talking out of school, so to speak, because he put it on the Toronto Mike airwaves here. But he, at some point, because he's been doing it a decade now, Day 6, he wants to just be a full-time dad.
Well, more power to him, because I bet he's an incredible dad. But I would miss listening to him on that show. That's for sure.
And you're probably too young for Brave New Waves, right? This is you get a certain generation who, because I had him on earlier, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's Brent Bambury from Brave New Waves." Like, this is how I was in Nova Scotia, and this is how I heard cool new alternative music?
I was made aware of Brave New Waves for sure. I didn't experience it firsthand in my
No,
youth,
because you're
but I was
29
made
years old. How the hell could you remember Brave New Waves?
That's right, 29.
Okay, so you weaseled your way into CBC Radio. Is that what I'm hearing?
Okay, yeah. So I was interning, and then I ended up. I cold called Kai Black, who was the executive director of the music department at that time, right towards the end of my internship, and I was like, "Oh, I really like it here, and I love music. Do you think you might have any opportunities?" And he gave me my first shot, and I was a digital producer for a while doing this special project, and I did a bunch of sort of producing jobs within the music department, and then. Ended up guest hosting a little bit on Radio 3.
Right.
And then that weekend morning job came up on Radio 2, and I was sort of scared, but I put myself in the running for it. And then somebody thought that was okay, and then they let me do it, and things kind of just rolled from there. And my whole career at CBC for that first chunk that I was there for those first few years was me asking somebody if they would let me try doing something and promising that it would work really hard, and then having just great mentorship and great, like truly great support and help and coaching. Especially there's this person named Anna Keegan who would do weekly air checks with us and help me learn everything I know, really. So it was also like being in school a bit. No,
I like hearing about the mentors over there. So shout them out early and often.
I agree, because that's a really, Tom on Q, Anne was also his mentor, and she was, with him since the very start for him on Radio 2. And he's grown into this amazing interviewer and on-air person. And I think he would say it too, like Anne is just a huge part of why we're able to do what we do.
Amazing. But you dropped earlier when I called you Talia Schlanger. No, I didn't call you that. But when I compared you to, asked if she was the inspiration for the name, you mentioned Philadelphia. Okay, so maybe give us a story of how and why you end up as host of World Cafe.
Why is, I don't know, but how I will tell you is, that was very confusingly put. I don't know why, but the how is this. I was guest hosting on Q at CBC in 2015, and it was my first week ever doing live on-air interviews. It was totally crazy. And
so no safety net. You're live. There's no post to fix anything.
No, at that time it was pretty much all live, and the show was crazy, and there was 3 or 4 interviews per show, and it was an hour and a half, and it was so alive. And that was another situation where I was like, okay, they're going through a bunch of different guest hosts. I'm going to see if somebody will let me try doing this, and they did for whatever reason. So I got to talk to St. Vincent during that week, who I love. And
well, hold on, let's pause it. I know it's so rude, Mike. I'm just in the middle of this thing, but let's listen to a bit of it, okay?
I wanted very much to be Eddie Vedder.
Nice choice.
Yeah. Kurt Cobain, Eddie Vedder. That was my pantheon.
They're your pantheon. And I've read that you said that you always felt weird. I'm wondering if it goes back to that time, back to when you were a kid. Do you remember having a sense of how unique you were or how different you were at that age?
Well,
this is crazy.
I mean, first of all, I should say that I think every human being is creative. I think every human being is unique. So I don't want to, start patting myself on the back by any means. But I always felt like an outsider, even though I was able to pass kind of as a normal person, and I had I had friends and whatnot. I wasn't shoved into lockers, but yeah, I definitely remember being a kid and doing the old sleepover with the soccer team kind of thing, and everybody else was listening to CNC Music Factory, and I was like, you guys, there's this great band, they're called Jethro Tull. You could check it out, and I put on Aqualung for everybody, and they hated it. And then their revulsion to 70s prog rock that included a flute kind of grew to include me, and I could feel that. It's and then there's the part in Aqualung where it starts again. There's the pause and it starts again, and everybody got so mad they thought I had somehow started the song over again to torture them more.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
A childhood sleepover revolution.
Yeah, I wasn't invited back to a lot of sleepovers, to be honest with you.
How does it feel listening back to that interview?
I can't believe you busted that out. That's so fun. I mean, honestly, all I can think about is just how cool is Annie Clark St. Vincent. She's amazing. But that's so sweet of you. Yeah, that I remember very, very distinctly sitting in that chair and saying to myself, like, don't let your hands shake. My feet under the table were just like, and my voice sounds so raspy and young and not fully sure of what I'm saying, but trying.
It's a good, no, I listened to the whole thing and it's very well done. You know, I've done this 1,500 whatever times, but what I like about your interview there is that you extract like authentic, interesting elements of your superstar guest. Like that's not easy. You didn't get some canned PR phrasing or whatever, some talking points or whatever. You had a real authentic conversation there.
Well, thank you very much. That was a turning point for sure in my life and in my career and in everything. So thanks for pulling that out of the vault. That's fun.
So the right person heard this. What's the get us back to the story on your way to NPR?
I got an email and the subject said Bruce from Philly. And I was kind of having a busy month and I thought it was like, I didn't know what it was. I just put it in my folder of like, I'll get to it once, you know, the immediate fires of my professional life are out. And then I guess I didn't get to it quickly enough because I got a note. I can't remember if it was a text or a DM on Twitter, maybe from Max from Arkells.
Oh yeah.
And has he been here before?
You know what? I've tried to get him here and I have not been successful. You might have to broker that one.
Well, if there's anything I can do, I don't know.
But I have attempted.
He's great. I think he would love it here. So Max sent me a note and he was like, hey, Bruce from Philadelphia is one of the most important people in like American public radio. And he's trying to get in touch with you. And if you could just write him back, that would be great.
Right.
And I was like, oh dear. And so sort of with my tail between my legs, I opened the email and it was really nice compliment about that St. Vincent interview. And he asked if we could have a phone conversation.
Right.
And he just opened the conversation and said that they might have some hosting needs in the coming years on this, you know, really foundational show.
Well, I feel like because we're speaking mainly to Canadians here in the GTA, it's called Toronto Mic'd. We maybe give a little context to what was, or it's still going, but what was World Cafe and basically a little 101 on what the heck this show was.
For sure. I want to do the math right to get the year that it was founded. When I joined in 2016, it had surpassed 30 years. So it was...
And it only had one host, right?
One host.
David
Dye. Yeah. So David Dye started this small radio show where he would interview artists one-on-one, and he was really ahead of his time on doing really like deep dive album interviews with people on the radio. Right. Made it at the station in Philadelphia. He and the team there grew it into this thing that was distributed across over 200 stations by NPR, so all across the states in all sorts of places. And he really built up. The show is really big, especially in Philly, but also quite well known.
Because NPR is different than CBC, where in NPR you can have a show that like, it's a local show, it's a Philadelphia thing, but it's on the network.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So sort of opposite model shows. I mean, they have their like main shows that they make in DC at their headquarters, like the All Things Considered and whatever. But in large part, as you described it, so the show was, made at a station called WXPN, which is affiliated with the University of Pennsylvania, but then distributed by NPR across the states. And
it's kind of a big deal. And David Dye, the only host, I mean, was there a lot of people like, you're not David Dye? That's tough when you have a show you've listened to for decades of one host and now there's a new host in there. Some people, not me, but some people want to hate you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for almost I was leaving. Like I had already announced that I was leaving after almost 3 years of being there. And I would still meet people and they'd be like, well, you got some really big shoes to fill stepping in for David Dye. I was like, no, these shoes, I stepped into the shoes. I'm actually taking off the shoes now. But I also get it because when you listen to somebody every day, you have a real closeness with them and a real relationship, and our styles are very different. So
there are still people who miss Matt Galloway on Metro Morning.
Totally. I mean, you get it. Everybody's different. I don't begrudge anybody for missing him, but I do think that it was good that we were so different. Because I think I was able to sort of say, okay, that was that. I respect it so much. I love music just like you. And here's how I'm going to approach this, but still sort of the same like deep music loving heart that informed all of the decisions about what to program and what questions to ask people.
Here, let's listen to a little of you on NPR, just a little bit.
Oy, oy, oy.
Hey, I'm Talia Schlanger, contributing host at the World Cafe, and super excited to be a judge on NPR's Tiny Desk contest. I'm based in Philly, the city of brotherly love and, frankly, really good music. The best part of my job is discovering new artists before they hit it big, and that, my friend, is where you come in. All you have to do is shoot a video of you or your band performing your original song behind a desk like this one. Okay, this is not a desk, these are stacks at an awesome local record shop called Brewery Town Beats, but you know what a desk looks like, so just do that. Film that video, submit it to npr.org/tinydeskcontest, contest, and you could win the chance to perform in the prestigious Tiny Desk concert series and tour the U.S. with NPR Music and Lagunitas. Can't wait to hear what you got. Good luck.
So that might be before you were the host, right? When you were just contributing? Is that when
That's
you were?
right. Yeah. So
earlier than that.
I was
Okay.
brought there first as a contributing host to sort of test the waters and see how things went. I think it was like my 3-month-long or 4-month-long audition for the gig. And that was from that time period.
Am I saying the word prestigious wrong? Like you say prestigious.
Prestigious.
Am I doing it wrong?
Prestigious. I think you can say it both ways.
Is it one of those tomato things?
I think so. How do you say association?
Association.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Is that wrong?
No, but
Because I've been known for saying words wrong.
So have I. I don't know. My dad says association. Association.
And at the CBC, you have to say schedule, right? Like this is in the book or something, right? Like they won't let you say, you're
No.
on a certain schedule.
Schedule?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Am I
you
out
kidding
to
me?
lunch on that one too?
I've never heard that explicitly, but I'll listen out for it.
Okay,
now.
listen to it.
They do have to say rather than saying news, I think they do have to say news. CBC News.
See, that's why I never got the job offer from CBC. I can't say brewery. Can you say brewery?
That's a very difficult word.
Thank you. It's like a rural juror.
Yeah, rural juror breweries. That'd be a good.
Oh, by the way, I
brewery.
wasn't explicit earlier. I don't know if you enjoy beer, but if you don't, it's okay if you don't. But
I do. I wouldn't say it's my number one go-to, but it's something I enjoy now and again.
because this fresh craft beer from Great Lakes is going home with you today.
Wow, thank you.
And do you enjoy Italian food?
Yes.
Okay, I have in my freezer upstairs. So this is an beautiful empty red box, but it's going to be full with a frozen lasagna from Palma Pasta if you would like to take that home.
I would love to take that home. Thank you so much. I've heard so much about Palma's kitchen.
I won't shut up about what's happening
you.
Saturday, right?
No,
Okay.
I'm excited to try it though. Thank you.
And what's up with FOTM Reina, who's been in this basement? She replaces you everywhere, right? So she replaced you on CBC, right? And then she replaces you at the World Cafe. Like she's literally looking for you to leave a job, and then she's pouncing.
No, they're like, who could we get to do better than to do a
No, I
better
feel
job
it's like, okay, well, now that the great one is leaving, we'll take the next best one.
No, no way. No way. Reina's doing such a killer job. And in all honesty, I really wanted her to get that job when I left. I felt like she was the perfect person for it.
She's very good.
She's very good. And she's such a great Philly person. Like I didn't know her that well before she took over, but I just had a feeling. I strongly encouraged her to apply, for I felt that she would not only be great at the show, but also just enjoy living in Philly and the vibe of what that show is. And I think it's such a good fit.
She's the only person that can say she was at CFNY, Indy 88, CBC, and NPR.
This is like Talia Shire being in The
Right.
Godfather and Rocky. Like we're bringing it full circle, you know.
Like,
Like
imagine if Talia had a cameo in Jaws.
Yeah,
and then she would have the 70s trifecta.
the Reina Duris, I don't know.
And Reina,
Pentangle.
okay, so Reina Duris, like I feel like when I had her on, it was obviously before NPR stuff happened in her life, but I would refer to her as Reina, like she had one name, sort of like Oprah. Okay, you didn't say Oprah Winfrey, you said Oprah. We knew who you were talking about. Oprah. Oprah Uma Oprah. That's a Letterman bit. Okay, but Reina, I feel like you're there now too. Like Talia you don't need a last name. Like you're Talia.
I do need a last name.
Because of Shire.
Well, no, because I do.
Okay.
When I was putting out music, people were like, "Oh, why don't you just use your first name?"
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a Schlanger, man. Like
No,
I
you're
can't-
Schlanger
I
for
just-
sure. And it's fun to say Schlanger.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fun to be a Schlanger too.
It's fun to say Schlanger. Like I would like to just call you Schlanger, but I feel like you could just be Talia if for branding purposes.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I think
Well, just think about it. I know maybe it's too late, but just think about it.
I think the ship sailed. Yeah. But
So
thank you.
you arrive at World Cafe. It sounds so like global. World Cafe. Oh my goodness. You arrive there in 2016 as a contributing producer, and then you're named the new host when David Dye retires from World Cafe.
That's right.
And David Dye did not die. I want to make sure the Canadians know that.
Not at all.
Still with us.
No, still with us and still hosting his own little show. Yeah.
So no shout out to Ridley Funeral Home required here.
No.
Okay.
No.
But you leave in June. Did you leave in June 2019 because you wanted to go to the Toronto Raptors victory parade? Like, that's the big thing that happened in June 2019. So maybe
I
before
I left at the end of September 2019.
Okay, see, that's when you announce your right.
Yeah.
June 9th, 2019,
there
you
you go.
announce it.
Yeah,
You're right,
yeah.
but you don't leave till September. And then Raina is like, just in your shadow. Raina just jumps out and says, I'm going to take over. And that's how
That's
it works
right.
around here. But Andrew Ward has a good question. He says, going from CBC to NPR is huge. He put huge in all caps. Can you ask Talia what her experience and transition was like? So can you just give a taste? And then you're at Philadelphia, so maybe it's different. But what's it like, CBC, Talia, now you're NPR World Cafe host, Talia?
Very different. Absolutely a huge difference. And I will say, like, we made the show at a small station in Philly, and I got the chance to, like, you heard that Tiny Desk advertisement thing. You know, we worked with the team at NPR Music in DC at the headquarters sometimes. But I don't have a deep sense of NPR at large. I only just have a sense of my specific experience at that station. But the stakes felt really high, like super high for me in terms of what I wanted to do. Is a huge opportunity. I found that I also had a lot more leeway in terms of what I wanted to talk about and how I wanted to talk about it, access to a whole roster of artists to interview that I would never have had access to at CBC, for sure. Not that they had big stars come through, but they were largely on Q or other shows. So all of a sudden I just had access to these unbelievable artists and people and expectations as well. And living in America was pretty wild. Like, we think, maybe we don't think this anymore. I don't know. But I used to think that Canada and the States were pretty similar. Like, you know, we'd be like, yeah, we're not that different. But I felt a dramatic difference when I lived there in terms of the volume. Just it felt like the volume on everything was just turned way up. And to get some context, so you're there during Trump's first term and you're gone before the pandemic. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
I moved a month before the election. So that was crazy because that felt like a really earth shattering moment. And I didn't really know anybody there except for my one Canadian friend, Fiona, who I had just met 2 weeks before, because friends from Canada were like, oh, you both moved to Philly at the same time. You should be friends. And we were, and she's amazing. But we sat and like ate a cold plate of fries while we watched the election. And it was very sad. But
that was a depressing night.
that was a hard night. And yeah, then I left before COVID, just like a few mere months
so why?
before.
Like, why? Because now you're doing this great gig. You're on NPR. David Dye did it a long time, and you go what, a few years. You go do 3 years there. But why did you leave World Cafe?
Yeah, I left because
I want the truth, Talia.
the truth. I know. Well, at the time, the statement that we put out was like leaving to pursue other creative opportunities, and so many people were like, "Yeah, but why are you really leaving?" And the honest truth was, I was leaving to pursue
So
other.
the big question is, did you decide to leave, or
Yeah.
did they tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Raina's here.
Here's a banker
She
box."
needs that seat."
Right. No, I did decide to leave. They very kindly offered to extend my contract for quite a lengthy period of time. And I did not, at that moment in my life, want to keep doing that. I was so grateful for it. And for everything that I learned. When I look back on it now, like how crazy to give up such a wonderful job that allowed me to have a great lifestyle and talk to all these amazing people. But I really had to do a lot of soul searching, and I really felt like I had something to say creatively that if I didn't pay attention to, I would go cuckoo. And I gave myself the chance to just do that.
And is that grace for the going?
It ended up being, I didn't know exactly what it was going to be honest, when I left. There were a couple of screenplay ideas that I was kicking around. There were some music ideas that were starting to bubble up. But I really just had this extremely strong gut feeling that I needed to make a huge change and give myself a blank slate to try. It sounds insane.
Here's
I
my
know.
dumb question is, because
No.
I feel like if I'm hosting a radio show, like in a World Cafe, let's say, and I'll replace Reina in 40 years, I'll take over. But okay. So if I'm hosting World Cafe and I have this itch, I know what it's like to have an itch that needs to be scratched. And it's like, I got to scratch that itch. I get that. You can do these, I'll use the big word again, concurrently. Like you could actually write music and write screenplays and work on this creative outlet and host World Cafe. And tell me if Mike, mind your own business. I made a call here and I'll back off. But I'm just trying to understand, like, you needed a clean slate, it sounds like.
That's totally fair to say. I could not. Like, I couldn't, because for a number of reasons. First of all, I had never written music before, and I hadn't spent a lot of serious time with guitar before. Like, I'd kind of casually-ish maybe written a song here or there, but I hadn't dedicated time to it. So it wasn't like this is a skill that I used to have, something that I used to do, and now I can find a way to integrate it into my life and do it on the evenings and weekends. It was more like I feel called to this. I understand from talking to all these artists what it actually requires to do something like this. Right. I want to go full, like, jump in with 2 feet and do it. And then the other thing was that job was so demanding on your time and intellectual and creative energy. Like, it's not a normal full-time job where you go in at 9 and you're done at 5, and then from 8 until midnight you can write music.
Well,
and on
this
the
is a
weekends.
good point. See, I would have no idea, but so it was so encompassing. You simply didn't have this space and time to be alone with your creative fluids there.
No capacity for that. No, none. Because you're seeing, like, especially in the first couple of years there, I was seeing like 3 or 4 concerts a week. And on the weekends for sure too. And then on the weekends writing interviews for the week ahead, or writing special pieces for NPR, which I did a whole bunch of. And I was part of this, like, Turning the Tables initiative about reframing the canon of music and looking at all the women who were overlooked by music history. And that took me to New York on the weekends to do panel stuff. And, like, there was just, it was wonderful.
Not a 9-to-5 job.
No, it was wonderful, but it was a lifestyle more than a job. And there wasn't, I did try. There wasn't the opportunity to pull back, or even pull back for a little period of time to let myself explore some other creative things and then come back. It was, they really want, you can tell by the fact that the show was hosted by the same person for like 30 years, that their audience and that station really likes consistency and really likes the person there to be the person there. And I felt like I'd done as much good as I could do, and I was ready to move on. But I get it. Does there any part of you that just felt like you wanted to come home to Canada? Like, was there any sense of, like, being in the United States playing a role and that you'd like to come home? I don't know, actually, because I didn't really know where I was going to end up. I missed Toronto, but I don't think that was as much a part of it. I had started the process for a green card when I was still there, and I went traveling a bunch when I left, and I was in Europe, and then I was kind of test driving living in Montreal before COVID. So I'm not sure if that was as much of it, but now that I am back home, I will say I love it here, and I remember how much I love it here, and I have, like, retroactive missing of Toronto because I love the city. Yeah.
And, the reason I bring that up is only because you're back on the radio. Like, I know you're filling in. It's not the same all-encompassing requirements here, but, you're Q. I mean, if Tom Power has a day off or isn't working, it's your voice that we'll probably hear is filling in for Tom Power and Here and Now. And, you're still on, now you're on CBC Radio again. So it's like, oh, you have found a way to do both.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just less demanding than being the host of World Cafe, which was, like, all-consuming 24/7.
That's right. And I also felt like I had to really establish myself as a musician, like, had to make a stand and say, like, I've done this. I've taken this really seriously. I gave up stability. I lived in a tiny studio apartment where my couch was a pull-out bed, and it pulled out to the hot plate in the kitchen, and I ate lentils and discount vegetables for a few years. Like, I did it. I did it, and I'm doing it in a way that is, like, full-hearted. And now, obviously, in order to make a living, because music isn't as lucrative as some people might think it is, I do the other things that I
don't think it's lucrative at all, for what it's worth. But I've talked to many a Canadian musician. But
yeah,
so we'll get into that part. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pivot to music. So
okay.
You left World Cafe, you came back to Canada, And now you're going to create, it sounds like at first you had different ideas for your creative output, but it ended up being your debut album, Grace for the Going, which was released earlier this year. And I'm going to play a song from it, and then I'm going to ask you about it. And I'm hoping you'll share with us the inspiration for this one. You ready?
I'm ready. I can't wait to see which one you picked. I know you are tired and scared to close your eyes. I'll keep watch until we reach the ocean's other side. Then I'll lay beside you in the still of sleep, breathing like it's simple, dreaming like it's free. And if waters rise to great unknown, I will hold you high, and I will see you long before the oldest oak embraced the linden tree, long before the thought of you ever occurred to me. A new day came from darkness, sea released the land, and we were born a promise to the palm of mercy's hand. So if waters rise to great unknown, I will hold you high, and I will see you, I will see you home.
So I have goosebumps because I know what this song is about, and I'm hoping you'll share with the listenership what See You Home is about.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So this song is inspired by my baba, who's my grandmother on my father's side. And I was just talking about her recently, and I always forget to tell this part of the story, but she really wanted to be an actress. She was born in Latvia and had this sort of passion for the stage, was very charismatic, and she was very excited when I became an actor, and she always really wanted me to stop biting my nails so I could have long fingernails and glamorous hands like an actor should. And she didn't get to become an actor because the war broke out, and then she had to run on foot with her sisters from Latvia into Russia, and went through all sorts of unspeakable things during the Holocaust, and then met my grandfather towards the end of it. And they got married, and they were living, after the war was over, they were living as refugees in what had been the concentration camp Bergen-Belsen. They weren't there when it was a concentration camp, but they were there afterwards when it was a DP camp. And they had my aunt. And then it took almost 3 years to get permission to come to Canada. And they were about to get on the boat, and my baba, who, she's in her 20s, she's never even seen a photograph of Canada, is about to cross the ocean and go to a place where she doesn't know the language, and she doesn't know the people, and she doesn't know anything, and she's just survived just the unimaginable. Yeah. And she was terrified of getting on the boat, like just scared of making the journey across the ocean. And she had this toddler with her, my aunt. And so the story that we were told was that she made her a promise that if the waters rose and threatened to overtake the boat, that she would just hold my aunt really high over her head with her last breath, and she would be saved. And so that's what the song is. If waters rise to great unknown, I'll hold you high and I'll see you home. That's
I highly recommend that you go back and listen to that song now, knowing what it's about. It's chilling. Wow. And it's a wonderful song. See You Home.
Thanks for asking about it.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little more about your faith and what it means to you.
Mm-hmm. So, what does it mean to me? I'm Jewish. I was raised with a lot of the traditional and cultural and family values of Judaism, and went to Hebrew school when I was a kid. So like half of our day was in Hebrew. And I almost took for granted how formative it was for me until really recently. Like, I think, we had Shabbat dinners growing up every week with my family, and I learned about all sorts of, the volunteer thing that you mentioned at the beginning of going to a place for unhoused people and serving them dinner. Like, that's part of my Jewish upbringing. That's just something you should do, things like this. This is how we contribute. This is how we ought to be citizens of the world. So I think it comes from that and from those values. And I think it wasn't as big of a part of my conscious identity for a lot of my late teens and my 20s and my time in theater and even my time in Philly. And it's really, honestly, in the last year that it's become something that I talk about a lot more. And it's very weird because I accidentally put a bunch of Jewish references on my album. That song is about our historic, my family's history, but there's also a couple of other songs, like Narrow Bridge is inspired by this old Hebrew folk song about how the whole world is a narrow bridge and the point is to not be afraid. And it was so formative for me. I enjoy thinking about sort of how do I want to say this? I think a lot of the things that I feel most proud about for myself as a person and how I try to be to others in the world come from that. So that's how I think about my faith. And I've also had a real closeness with a higher power. And my access point for that hasn't always been Judaism. And I still am not sure if it is, but I also have just a great faith and appreciation for sort of the great beyond and for being held by something bigger than me, and also having something bigger than me help me create things and write songs.
So you mentioned it was only about a year ago that you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm wondering if that correlates with October 7th.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It does. That changed life for a lot of people in a lot of extreme ways. And one of the ways that it changed mine was just being trying to be a lot more aware of where I come from and why it matters. And I really, to me, one of the most heartbreaking things about the whole situation is that so many people are talking about it as if we're all different and as if we all have different and competing interests. And I think we don't. I think that some, within families, siblings fight the hardest or cousins fight the hardest, and especially in the Middle East, we're all relatives, and just forgetting our humanity and our shared interest and just having a peaceful way to enjoy a remarkable part of the world. I just don't know why we can't do that. And so I think being a gentle ambassador of my own faith and my own upbringing has been my goal lately. I'm not a shout it from the rafters kind of person. I'm more of a, I wear my Jewish star everywhere I go. And I hope that when I have a great interaction with somebody out in the world of kindness and shared humanity, or something funny happens at a library, that if they see this, that they'll know that they met a Jewish person with whom they share humanity. And so, yeah, I think that's become a lot more important to me.
I produce a podcast for Dana Levinson, who was on CTV News for, I think, 19 years she spent there.
Dana's amazing.
And I can tell you, as producer of her program, I can tell you her focus since October 7th is shouting down any sense of anti-Semitism that she observes or hears about or witnesses. And she's been chatting with survivors of October 7th on her podcast, to make sure that we don't forget, and that many hostage has yet to return home. Yeah. And this is like a calling. It's a calling, a spiritual calling for Dana to similar sentiments to what you're saying. I think she's a bit more aggressive with it, but it's cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've cried about that at least once a day since it's happened. It's funny because I there are so many people that I know that have less of a personal stake and connection to what's happening that are that are so loud about it on social media. And I think, when they go to bed at night, or like, is that something that you post and then you turn off your phone and you can sort of put aside and forget about? I don't know. For me, it feels like my insides, my entire DNA is changed by this. And yeah, I don't know. It's very tricky and complicated to talk about, even within people's families. But it's definitely strengthened my resolve and my desire to be a Jewish presence in the world that is hopefully for good and for peacefulness, and also standing up against anti-Semitism, and also, as I always have, discrimination against any people for any part of their identity. Like a huge part of Jewish social life is social justice and standing up for others. So I take that as seriously for other people as I do for myself.
Do you find that, and I'll use the phrasing, maybe it's inappropriate, but casual anti-Semitism is tolerated where hate for a different group would be stomped down immediately? Like, do you find that it's almost acceptable, casual anti-Semitism?
I think a lot of times people don't even realize that they're doing it. I think it's very ingrained in culture. And I think sometimes you have to say, like, hold on, let's unpack that. And exactly as you said, like if you replaced any other racial group, like I can't remember who had said it. They were like, if you're trying to figure out if something is racist, just replace the name of the group with any other other group or ethnic identity or whatever, and see if you would tolerate it. And if you wouldn't, then it's probably a racist thing to say. I do think I feel even uncomfortable saying it because I don't know what the lived experience is like of being somebody in another minority group that faces discrimination, and what sorts of things I'm not even aware of affect them. But I can say in my own experience, there's a lot of, I've been on dates where I left a date once because somebody made the guy that I was on a date with made this anti-Semitic joke, and he made it so casually, and I was like, what? And he was like, oh yeah, but I mean, everybody says that, or everybody jokes about that. And I was like, exactly. And I just left. And it is pervasive, and it's got to stop. Like it's just not good. It's just terrible.
Well, because I produced the Humble and Fred show.
Yeah.
And Humble, Howard Glassman, we've had many conversations where he says the anti-Semitism that's, if you, like you just said that exercise where if you replaced it with a different group, I don't know, say instead of talking about Jewish people, you're talking about black people, let's say, for example, right? He says this would be so unacceptable, and people would be, leaders, political leaders, everybody would rise up and denounce this immediately.
As they should.
Yeah. As they should.
Yeah.
But in his experience, he doesn't see the same denouncing. I mean, we have footage coming in from Montreal, and my daughter goes to McGill. We talk about this all the time.
Oh, wow.
She's there right now. And some of these, she talks about, like, she's got friends going to these protests, and it's like under the guise of free Palestine would be like, but really what it devolves into is anti-Semitism. And we've had many, many, many long conversations about what's going on there. But that was in the news that somebody gave some Nazi salute. Somebody who today, I think it's Second Cup or whatever, who took action immediately, thankfully. But I mean, this is the kind of news that we're inundated with, and I can only imagine. I hate it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you talked to your daughter about it, and I'm glad that you hate it. And
I know. Put me in the I hate it column.
He hates it, guys. He hates it. Yeah. No, I know.
There's any doubt out there.
I hate it too, and I hate that. It's very, very personal. I don't want to share too much about my own family's experience, but like, for my father's parents survived the Holocaust. My father survived his own, discrimination that he was up against in many ways. And now what he's seeing play out in the world, and some of the positions that I've been put in that we talk about, it breaks my heart. It's so old. It's so ingrained, anti-Semitism, and it's so pointless. Like, also Judaism is not a missionary religion. Like, we're not we're not
like the
out,
Jesuits.
we're not out there trying to take over anything, you know,
Convert
like
and,
no,
right.
it's like just live and let live kind of thing. And like, I don't, yeah, it's been hard.
Do you want to hear another song from your excellent new debut album here? Here we go. Okay.
Hold me close, whisper how you love the shape your name takes in my mouth. Soft and low, breathe me in. Attention is oxygen. You say, oh, 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 how rare it is to find someone who doesn't mind a little changing tide, a little less than die, or ride fast the end, come back inside, give your head a shake, it's fine, make no mistake about it, I was never your friend.
I like the chuckle in there.
I had something you need.
I like that. All right, please tell me, who are your influences? I need to know. Like, did you have any musical influences that helped guide the sound of this fine debut album?
I mean, I have so many.
Okay, give me the top 100.
The top 100. Here we go. Paul Simon, Leonard Cohen, Beverly Glenn Copeland, Nina Simone, Missy Elliott, and Macy Gray. St. Vincent. This song, I have a lot of love for Andrew Bird and his very percussive violining. And we have an unbelievable violinist here in Toronto called Jaron Freeman Fox, who is playing on this record. And he's just one of the best. Yeah.
He's a fox.
He's a fox. He's unbelievable, and his creativity is incredible. I could go on forever. This is also where I forget that I've ever heard music by anybody ever before. When I'm asked to say all of my influences,
it sounds like it's. I'm trying to think. Like, would Nora Jones be an influence at all?
People have told me that my stuff reminds them of her a bit, and I don't know if I would say that she's an influence in terms of like I've spent a ton of time with her music, but I think I've absorbed it through the popular culture ether and her style, and I admire her greatly.
What about like a Leslie Feist?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Feist she's amazing. Her deep cuts on her album are just absolutely amazing, and I'm a huge fan, so that's for sure an influence. Yeah.
Okay, so I've been thoroughly enjoying this. I almost don't want to wrap it up, but maybe we spend a little time talking about the music industry beyond writing and performing music, okay? So I am not a musician, but I would think the writing and performing of the music, that sounds like the fun part.
Yeah.
But that's not the only part, right?
Yeah. That's not even the primary part I'm learning.
What is the primary part? Like, I want to hear about all the things that I wouldn't consider, like the grants, the grant writing, the marketing. Give me the ugly side of the less glamorous side of the music industry.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna lose all your listeners, Mike. They're
That's
like,
okay.
Skip.
I'm not doing this for them. Haven't you learned? I'm doing this for me. Should I be recording this?
Yeah, no, it's wow. I've had an education in what it is to try to share your music with people. The writing, performing is definitely the best part. I mean, I made my record with the help of a Canada Council grant. It was my second or maybe third time applying for the grant when I finally got it. I've also just...
No, it's very cool that exists.
Yeah.
Because my buddy made a movie in Winnipeg, and he was telling me that, there's these tax credits where I think for every dollar you spend, this is making a movie, but every dollar he spends in Winnipeg with the different credits that Winnipeg has and stuff, or I think Selkirk, Manitoba, which is near Winnipeg, he said he's only actually paying for like 33 cents out of every dollar when all this stuff is added up. And that's why he goes to Winnipeg to make his films. And so this is like, I see, there's these things. So you're saying that you get part of the money that was spent making Grace for the Going, which is now available, people should pick it up, is paid by some kind of grant that you qualified for?
Yeah. So the Canada Council grant, I think it's kind of a rigorous process, and they make assessments based on a number of factors, including artistic merit and your ability to execute your plan. So they covered, I'd say, like 2/3 of the cost of making the record. That's aside from my time and effort, and I covered the rest myself through savings. So thank goodness something like this existed so that I could make the record. And we made it on a shoestring budget to begin with, but it at least allowed me to pay the musicians that you hear and to pay the amazing producer and engineer and mastering engineer that I worked with, David Travers Smith, who is the best. So it really made it possible for me to do a lot of stuff. And then you get taxed on grants. So it counts as your income. So you have to count your expenses.
That sucks.
It super sucks. I mean, it's crazy. You get this big gift and it's like, oh, okay.
So the grant, that's a federal, is that a federal thing?
Yeah. This one is. And then Factor as well. So I was working with a small record label called Latent, and Factor was helping me cover some costs through Latent, but I had to match them 50-50. So it's like great because you can have access to money, but you also have to come up with the other half of it yourself. So you can only take advantage of as much as but you can only use as much as you're willing to put in. It's a complicated system. I don't fully understand it. There's lots of different types of grants and styles and whatever. And I'm sure a whole bunch that I didn't apply for that I can't speak to, but on the one hand, it's so great because otherwise how would I have been able to afford to pay musicians to make this record? But then it's also, it's imperfect, and we're not in it for the money or even to break even.
Well, that's where I'm going here, because earlier you said, you don't get rich off this or whatever. So is the goal to not go under? Is it literally can I stay afloat and still scratch this creative itch I have and perform this? You mentioned you're going to Philly next weekend?
I'm going to Philly next weekend. I'm playing a show in Toronto next Thursday.
Shout that out right now.
Yeah, please come to see my show at the Baby G on Thursday, December 5th. Mike, are you free? Do you want to be on the guest list? Do you want to come?
Okay, give me a second here.
Okay,
no bullshit here. I'm going into my December 5th because I just want to make sure that's not the day. I'm going to be at the Rivoli to see Lowest of the Low, but that might be on the 4th. Hold on here.
Let's find out. This is important.
All right, this is important.
This is important to me.
Okay, so yeah, after I pick up my youngest at 6 p.m.,
Yeah.
I'm actually free.
Hey.
Okay, so that's the 5th. Okay, it's the 4th, apparently. I'm at the Rivoli to see Lowest Low. So the 4th, I'm seeing Lowest of the Low at the Rivoli. And then on the 5th, I'm seeing Talia Schlanger at the, what venue exactly is that?
It's called the Baby G, and it's at Dundas and Brock. It was made
so convenient.
I know.
Can bike to that easily.
It's in your backyard, and the people who made the Garrison made it. So the sound in there is really, really good. It's an awesome venue, and I'm playing with my whole live band, and the show gets so weird. The record is very we really took a lot of care putting the songs together, and then live everything just gets a little wacky and nuts, and the musicians I play with are so amazing. So I hope that people can come and you can come. So that's really great.
Okay, I'm going to let you be in the background here for a moment, and you can be like a conductor and tell me to bring it up if you want. I just want to have another track going. Well, I almost feel like it's rude to talk over you. Hold on.
No,
here,
that's
let's hear
fine.
a bit. You sure?
Yeah.
You're calling out.
I'm looking at the waveform, so this song starts slow and then it builds. It's got like a crescendo there. Okay, so you're doing this because you love performing the music that you write and you're expressing yourself through your music. And again, people can get the new album right now, Grace for the Going. You're not in this to get rich, but can you even, I'm just trying to make sure you can stay afloat here. Do we need to start a GoFundMe or whatever? Are you going to be okay?
I mean, I'm going to be okay.
Because you're not full-time with the CBC, right? You're sort of a pay-as-you-go...
That's right. Pay-as-you-go subscriber.
Yeah, pay-as-you-go with
so
CBC.
funny.
When they get the bat phone rings, they're like, oh, Tom Power needs some time off. And you're like, I'm in. But that's not going to be particularly lucrative.
That's exactly, in fact, how it works. And I have a bunch of other things like that I do to stay afloat. But the truth is, I don't support myself through music at all. I don't even break even on it at this point. Because, going places and playing shows is expensive.
You're going to Philadelphia, so there's probably paperwork. I don't know. Do you need to do paperwork to do
I
that?
had to do a lot of paperwork.
And it's probably, that all comes with fees and stuff?
That's right. Crazy, crazy, crazy fees for Canadian artists to go to the States and play on what's called a P2 visa. And you have to line up a bunch of dates over the course of a year at regular intervals in order to make the most of this giant sum that they charge you to.
Well, that sounds
cross the
horrible.
It's really not that pleasant.
But they don't have to do that when they come here, right?
No, they don't. They just wander over the border and serenade us, and we say thank you so much and see you later, see you next time, bring your merch, bring your flyers. I don't know, maybe we don't say that, there's taxes and trade and whatnot, so I shouldn't make that up, but they're very intense over there. They make it really hard, and I had to do a ton of paperwork. My visa is up at the end of the year, so I'm really trying to make the most of the time that I'm able to spend going there and playing shows. I'm walking across with my guitar without anybody asking me, questions.
Is this all you? Is this you and you, or is there...
Yeah, no, it's me and me. Yeah. That was the most fun thing to do. It comes up again, and we can bring it back up.
Okay, your job
I'll
is to tell me when to lift it up. Okay.
Okay, so we kind of thought we were finished this song, and then we really wanted to have backing vocals in there to add texture, and I was going to hire a choir, and I was going to hire other people and whatever, and then I was like, you know what? I love stacking harmonies myself, and all of my theater background, I used to cover a lot of different parts in shows, and so you learn different harmony parts and how they fit together. And so I sat in my apartment with an edit of this song and just recorded stacked vocals of all these different notes until I got that like proper stinky crunch.
Yeah, I like it.
That produces tension, and you're going to hear it come back up again in a couple of seconds.
You are the ending of a
The endling is meant to be listened to with headphones on, right? It's better with headphones on.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing.
That's where we have like a violin growing out of a... crazy
That's a
guitar.
regular violin, or is that an electric violin?
No, it's regular violin. It's like treated, but it's, yeah. And then this is the part to listen out for where the vowel changes. Here we go.
Look at you. Listen, you know what? Who cares about the money? This is what it's all about right here.
I know. I actually could not care less as long as I can survive.
Eat. Like as long as you go to bed with some food in your tummy.
Yeah.
See, I called it tummy.
Don't care. Yeah, that like that ha to is one of my favorite things ever.
Okay, well, this is one of my favorite interviews ever.
Aww.
This is my St. Vincent. Do you think somebody at NPR will hear this and will get some that email needed a better subject line? I don't think that's a good for that email. That's a bad subject line.
But
don't you think that subject line needed a little more?
It needed to be like opportunity.
Yeah.
NPR.
Hey, it's Bruce from NPR. Want to talk or something? Like something that would make you cherry pick it as I'll read this one right away.
Yeah, but you know what? Like
Bruce from Philly.
Bruce,
I wouldn't open that right away either.
That's kind of how he is. Like he's unassuming. He's like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Take it or leave it.
Well, and what happens is you don't get back to him. That's what happens when you're so unassuming like that. Okay.
Everybody gets back to him. Bruce Warren's a legend, a star.
How was this? I loved this chat. There's so many interesting facets to your life, and that you're this radio star and you sort of shut it down to become a struggling musician. Like, it's quite a story. I dig it.
Thank you. Thanks for being so thoughtful and wide ranging in what you asked about. I appreciate it. You're so fun to talk to.
Well, now I want to tell you how we're closing. So forever. So what is this? Episode 1588 or something like that. Forever, this show ended with a cut from Lowest of the Lows, Shakespeare, My Butt. The song is called Rosie and Gray, and it's got a long instrumental build up before the lyrics. It was kind of perfect, and it was very Toronto. And but now I'm getting like copyright violation notices for that song, even though the singer-songwriter Ron Hawkins has told me I have permission to use it. Like, it doesn't matter because Spotify, YouTube, their algorithms that catch it don't really care that the guy who wrote it says you can use it or whatever, right? So I went to keyboardist prodigy aforementioned Rob Bruce. He was the keyboardist with the Spoons during their heyday. He has a co-writing credit on Romantic Traffic.
Okay.
This is a big deal. It's
Okay,
although
guys.
I feel like that song is bigger because of the video. Like it's a great song, but the video is kind of like a Toronto iconic video because it's the old TTC with the red subways. Okay. So I said, Rob, this is literally what happened. And Rob, by the way, he lives in New York because he worked on Broadway because he was in musical theater here after The Spoons and Honeymoon Suite. But he is going to be at TMLX 17 on Saturday. So he's making the long drive to Mississauga because he's a sweetheart. But I said, Rob, I want to have a Rosie and Gray theme that doesn't get caught by the algorithm. I said, you're a keyboard prodigy. Can you please put something together that is Rosie and Gray? And then maybe because you're doing this at the end, you can put in some Easter eggs for FOTMs so they can be kind of rewarded for sticking it out. Okay?
Ooh.
Okay. So I'm going to get this started right now.
Okay.
So the new closing theme, and I'm going to discuss this with Rob at TMLX 17, but it's Rob Bruce covering Rosie and Gray by Lowest of the Low. And I will do the extra in a moment here, and I will let it run because the last section of this song, I said I need a lot of room because sometimes stories come out during the extra and I need some ramp here, some ramp.
This is great. Yeah.
He's good, right?
Yeah.
So at the end, though, there's Easter eggs. So maybe I'll do my extra, then I'll mute us.
Okay.
Or not, or maybe we'll see if you recognize any of the Easter eggs. Do you think that'll be fun?
Yeah.
And it's okay if you don't because you're only 29 years old.
I mean, good
you
luck.
might miss
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of these.
29, yeah.
Okay. So thank you for being here.
Thank
You're
you
amazing.
Thanks for having me. It was very fun.
Don't leave without your lasagna.
Trust me. I mean, we've already established that I'm struggling, so I need that.
I need
lasagna.
to feed you.
Yeah.
I'm already feeding Peter Gross. Now I'm feeding you. That's what I do around here.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,588th show. You can follow me everywhere at torontomike.com. Talia, if you're going to send somebody to pick up the new album and find out like when you're playing live, where would you send them?
You can pick up the album on Bandcamp for sure. And my website, taliaschlanger.com, has all my live dates.
Schlanger's fun to say.
It's fun to say, it's fun to type, but also honestly the best place to pick up an album is at a show in person. It's so fun. So Thursday, December the 5th at the Baby
Amazing.
G. Yeah.
Amazing. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. Love my Great Lakes. Palma Pasta. We're going to be there. Thank you for hosting. We're going to be there on Saturday at noon. Everybody's invited. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Cliff Hacking from RecycleMyElectronics.ca will be there on Saturday. Raymond James Canada. Moneris. Al Grego's going to be there. Very exciting. And Ridley Funeral Home. I hope Brad Jones can make it. He says he might be there. See you all then. I'm not going to mute Talia. We're going to listen.
Okay.
Let's see how much more. Okay, so we got a little more Rosie and Gray here.
Until we get to Easter egg territory.
Right.
Okay.
And then you're going to, if you recognize the Easter egg, you're going to just scream it out.
Okay.
And if you don't, I'll judge you quietly.
I'm scared. Yeah, this is, I'm nervous.
It's really well, I think you'll get a few of them.
Okay.
Let's see. Great job, Rob. You did amazing.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, it's coming, I think. Do you recognize this one? You're way too young, but do you get it?
Oh.
No, you're too young. That's the Friendly
Friendly
Giant.
Giant.
theme.
I was going to say it's the
Okay.
Friendly Giant. And then I was
what
like,
about
can
this
I
one?
say that? Oh, yeah. Pizza.
Pizza Nova jingle.
439.
Right. Now, how about this one?
No.
Romantic Traffic
Oh.
by the Spoons.
Sure,
Okay,
of
we got
course.
one more left, I think. Kids in the Hall theme.
Yeah.
That's shadowy men on a shadowy planet having an average weekend. Thanks everybody for listening.